He's a prolific writer. He is a former banker. He is an ex-diplomat. Clearly, he's a man who wears many, many hats. But Amish Tripathi in the public conscience now is somebody in the public consciousness who has a project almost to speak clearly and lucidly about India's history, about India's culture, and for a younger audience and for a global audience in a course of a decade and a half.
15 years.
15 years, 12 books. That's how prolific he is. And the latest in the series, of course, is the Chola Tigers, Avengers of Somnath. Welcome, Amish Tripathi, for speaking to us here at NDTV 24/7. Why? Why do you want to speak about the Cholas at this time? Why is it important to you?
I think a few things. One, the way our history has been taught to us, our history textbooks, they have a Lutyens Delhi bias. Like everything happened between Khyber and Agra, and the rest of India didn't really matter. I call it the holy school of Lutyens Delhi history writing, which is unfortunate. I'm not denying the importance of Delhi. We are in Delhi right now. It is a very important city. I don't deny that. But it's not the only important thing. And when we excessively focus on Delhi, our understanding of India is incomplete. We think India was essentially about invaders coming in from the Khyber Pass, and everything would center around the battles at Panipat, and then we would lose. That was the story apparently of the last 1,000 years. But if you look beyond Delhi, you will realize India was actually the greatest seafaring and trading nation of ancient times. You'll find that India had the greatest GDP, particularly in the first millennium, by far, because of our trading prowess. It's not that we had huge gold mines or oil deposits or anything. Our gold mine was actually our people, right? We traded our way to prosperity. You'd get all that if you move to the coastal areas, if you move to the east, if you cover much more of India. That's one aspect. And the Cholas, not just them, various other non-Delhi empires have been ignored, to be honest. It's not just South India, West India, East India, Central India, they've all been ignored. I'm attempting to balance that through my fiction writing. That's one part of this. The second part of it is, again, the way history has been taught to us, is that for 1,000 years our ancestors just kept losing. And either they were cowards, or they didn't know how to fight. That's the way history is presented to us.
Or they were venal and ambitious and were throwing each other under the bus.
Exactly.
And they were collaborators with the Mughals and the British.
This is what has been repeatedly taught to us. And a question that struck me when I was in school: if we were losing every major battle for 1,000 years, why the hell are we still alive? We should be dead, right? Every other ancient culture is dead. Every other pre-Bronze Age culture is dead. They are museum pieces. The same invaders who came here went to those cultures as well. Where are Zoroastrians alive? In Iran, which was their original homeland, 0.03% of the population is Zoroastrian. 0.03. That's by the last census. There are more Zoroastrians in India. It's alive here, right? The Kemet culture of Egypt is dead. Greco-Roman is dead. We are still here. We are still standing 1,300 years later because our ancestors fought like hell. They lost battles, but they won battles as well, and they never surrendered. The last 1,000 years is, in my opinion, the greatest resistance in human history. It's the only ancient culture which refused to go quietly into the night, which kept fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. Our ancestors weren't weak or cowardly. They were the toughest people around, man. And we need to celebrate that. And my Indic Chronicles is a celebration of that great resistance of 1,000 years.
But what you mentioned about how we've had a Delhi veto on the way history is being told. Many would argue that's also a very RSS way or the BJP's way of looking at things. People have said, and in fact, especially about the Cholas, since there's a lot of talk about it now, in Tamil Nadu, the present dispensation, there is an increased outreach towards the state of Tamil Nadu. The Prime Minister recently, again, he was in Tamil Nadu last month and, he honored the Cholas there. The argument is that this is a false impression being conveyed. Cholas were also taught to us. Various kings, their legends have been passed down, in history. Why this attempt to try and, show that only the Mughals were the ones who had preponderance over what we were being taught?
Well, firstly, about the Cholas, I have not discovered them recently. I actually studied in Tamil Nadu in the 1980s. So I learnt a bit of Tamil also at that time. I am a North Indian. Hopefully your Tamil viewers will recognize that. I'm a North Indian who can pronounce Kadagam properly. Okay, because I'd studied in Tamil Nadu. I'd read Ponniyin Selvan in the 1990s, the English translation. I didn't know Tamil that well that I could study it, that I could read it in Tamil. And Ponniyin Selvan is of course on Emperor Rajaraj Chola. My book is on his son, Emperor Rajendra Chola. So I knew these stories from a young age. But the thing that struck me is that when I studied in Tamil Nadu or even later in West Bengal, so many parts where I felt that there was actually a commonality and it wasn't taught to us, right? Which is unfortunate because, yes.
Wasn't taught to you outside of Tamil Nadu?
No, yeah, exactly. In our national history books, it wasn't really taught to us, right?
Okay.
And if you find the commonalities, the basis for our nationhood, it makes for a stronger nation, right? And we don't have to lie to make it up. They are there, right? The Thirukural of Thiruvalluvar, they're beautiful couplets. It's in Tamil, right? But the poems, the couplets, if you want to call it, are essentially covering 3 of the 4 Purusharthas. And I learned of the Purusharthas in my Varanasi family. Yeah? Okay. So, wow, this is similar. Why wasn't I taught this? So that's one aspect, right? The second thing is, I think it's also important for the stage of history that we are in, the global time that we are in, that we need to try and find commonality of purpose. Okay, that doesn't mean that everyone has to come into, just one standard way of being. India has never been a unitary culture. We are never the kind that everyone has to convert into the right religion or the right language. We are not that way, right? But that doesn't mean that there is no commonality, right? Not everyone in my family, speaks the same way or thinks the same way. And if we did, we'd be damn boring, right? But that doesn't mean we don't recognize that we are one family and we are stronger together.
So you're saying there's more in common between the North and South than we are being let on. This divide of this North-South divide,
100%.
Cultural imposition doesn't actually exist.
There is far, far more in common than we are actually taught. Okay, and to your point of that the Cholas were also taught, I know this argument is made, but it's specious. Okay, because if there's a 20-chapter history book, okay, and 5 chapters are on Mughals and so many others, etc., and the Cholas are reduced to 1 paragraph. No, boss, sorry, that's not fair. Rajendra Chola's empire was bigger than the empire of Akbar. Okay, now I'm not belittling the achievements of Akbar at all. But if you read our history books, you won't gather, it won't give you the impression that Emperor Rajendra Chola had an empire as big as Emperor Akbar. It doesn't give you that impression. That's unfair, right?
So glorification of few at the cost of others who also deserve their place in the sun. Is it
glorification of Delhi, the way I see it? Because I know at times the left of the Marxist school tries to present this argument as a Hindu-Muslim argument. I don't think so. The Adil Shahis were actually great emperors of the Deccan region. Okay, after the sacking of Vijayanagar, the largest city in India was not Delhi, Agra. Those were giant palaces with glorified slums around. Palaces with slums around it. Frankly, they weren't really cities. Bijapur was actually the greatest city. Again, most of your viewers would be shocked by that. And Bijapur was Adil Shahis were Muslims. Why they ignored? Comes back to the same thing. Adil Shahis were a great empire. They made one cardinal mistake. They never conquered Delhi. Since they didn't conquer Delhi, the Marxist school has ignored them.
So the Delhi...
It's not a Hindu-Muslim issue. It's a Lutyens Delhi issue, the way I see it.
Lutyens Delhi or Delhi Sultanate issue?
Delhi Sultanate issue, right? And essentially like everything happened in the last 1500 years or at least 1000 years between Khyber and Agra. That's not really true.
But tell me this, Amish Tripathi, is it just a coincidence? Because when people look at the books that you're writing, there was the Ramchandra series, now this, is it mere coincidence that it seems to align with the politics of the time? The entire Ram Mandir, the inauguration, the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram Mandir, and now you have this increased push towards Tamil Nadu, the Prime Minister going there. Is it entirely coincidental that you also have books which are talking about the same things at the same time, roughly at the same time?
Listen, this is you're overreading stuff into it. As you know, writing a book actually takes time, okay? And this project actually began 2019, right? And the first draft was ready. I couldn't get to... I was passing through lots of personal difficulties as well. Many projects got delayed. It happens. There was a very difficult personal phase in my life. I couldn't have known at that time what the plans of the BJP was.
Okay. So this is not like some great culture project that is underway.
But there is a culture project that I do believe in. A culture project in finding unity amongst all of us Indians, right? And in all my books, I think people who actually read my books, I think a theme that's clear is I never hide the fact that I'm a very, very proud Hindu. And I've said this on stage at Jaipur Lit Fest in 2011, right? When it perhaps would have been less fashionable to say.
So you're not a secular author, you are a Hindu author.
I'm a Hindu author, but I'm a pluralist author, right? If secularism means that you deny your religion, no, I'm very proud of my religion. I wear an Om Namah Shivaya Kada, I wear a Rudraksh Mala, I do a Mahamrutyunjay Jap every morning. I am a Hindu. I've, like I said it on stage in 2011, when it perhaps would have been less fashionable. But that does not mean that I differentiate or try and separate myself from Indians who follow other religions, right? In my books, you will find I always show, and even in this book, right? There are Muslims and Hindus working together to fight a foreign invader. Legend of Suhail Dev or the Chola Tigers is not presented as a Hindu-Muslim issue. It's actually an Indian foreigner issue. And this, someone like, I think, in my opinion, perhaps among the greatest Indian archaeologists alive, K.K. Mohammed Saab, I'd interviewed him for a documentary. And he had spoken on the Ram Janmabhoomi Ji issue. And he had said, it was so beautiful what he said. He said, Babur was from Uzbekistan. What do I have to do with him? I'm an Indian Muslim, right? And then he said the same line, that the attack on this temple was not a Hindu-Muslim issue. It's an Indian foreigner issue, right? If I think, in my opinion, the establishment historians did something, either they made a terrible mistake or it was mischievous. If you don't call the British colonial invasion the Christian invasion, why do you call the Turkic colonial invasion the Muslim invasion? I find it extremely mischievous, right? Because the assumption is Indian Muslims were ruling at that point of time and oppressing everyone else. When the reality is, it was foreign Turkic Muslims at that point of time who were oppressing all Indians, including even Pasmanda Muslims. Faiz Ahmad has said that, for example, in what is in modern days is called Mughal times, actually it was Timurid. They didn't call themselves Mughals. They called themselves Timurid. Pasmanda Muslims would not be allowed into Agra, into their capital. Some Hindus were allowed, by the way. Rajput Hindus were allowed, right? Kashmiri Hindus were allowed, but Pasmanda Muslims weren't allowed. Why did our historians present Turkic colonial rule? They were Turks. They were from Central Asia. Why did they present it as Islamic invasion? It's something worth questioning. Bollywood adds to this confusion as well, right? Because we think Alauddin Khilji looked like Ranveer Singh, or Akbar looked like Hrithik Roshan, or Aurangzeb like Akshay Khanna, right? When actually to us Indians, they would have looked Chinese. Actually, they weren't Chinese. That would be a mistake. They would have had Mongoloid features because they were from Central Asia. They were Turks. They weren't Indian.
So this entire mistake or mischief that has taken place in the past, is there an effort? You are saying this is not, it's not aligned to politics at all, but is there a larger project at revivalism of some kind, of the kind that we had seen, in the 80s when Ramanand Sagar made Ramayana? A lot of people actually believe that the Ram Janmabhoomi movement gained that kind of traction and popularity because in the common man's mind, the whole idea of Lord Ram, the whole idea of Janmabhoomi was revived thanks to Ramayana, which ironically was allowed by the Rajiv Gandhi government to come on Doordarshan at that time. Is there again an effort now in this decade to try and go back to your roots, go back to your culture?
Perhaps there is, and I actually think it's a bottom-up movement. India is not a top-down country, very rarely has been. We're a bottom-up country, right? Which means there are social movements which rise from the bottom. And those who you see as change-maker political leaders are actually the political geniuses who see that change 30 years before anyone else does. Okay? That's why they ride that wave. But India is a bottom-up country. We're not a top-down country.
So what do you hope to do? What do you hope to achieve through this project, this revivalistic project?
I think I'm a part of this bottom-up movement as well. Because maybe because of my background, because of my particular upbringing, my family's roots in Varanasi, but I was born in Mumbai, and then early childhood was in Odisha because my father was working there, and then my twin brother and I studied in Tamil Nadu, right? Deeply religious. My parents were in a Hindi medium school, but we were sent to English medium. We're the first generation to be sent to English medium schools. So at home, it was completely Bharat. My Hindi is Shuddh because we spoke Hindi at home, right? But I am comfortable with the Angrezi walas as well because I went to school with them, right? Maybe because of my particular upbringing, I find that love for this land. And maybe I'm just lucky to be there at the right time, at the right place, that these ideas occur to someone of my background, of my character, at a time when these issues are forefront in India.
Do you think that there is also an effort and there's a possibility that religion will be cool again? Because also remember, this is a time when religion itself is looked at with suspicion. You are talking about our history. A fair amount of religion also comes into that, culture, religion, they're all married to each other. And it's looked at with suspicion as, are you trying to create some kind of polarization? Is religion in public life such a good idea after all? Are you trying to make the whole idea of Sanatan and religion cool again, accessible to people who are reading your books?
This is something I've spoken of repeatedly, that the Western experiment with hard secularism. Look, the thing with humanities, okay, any social theories, is social sciences are not really sciences, okay, because they're not experiments. Science is science, right? I'm a science graduate. Social sciences, you have theories, and then you see how it works, right, in a society, right? Now, this theory of hard secularism, of denying religion completely as a binding factor, has been attempted in the West, okay? They have been doing this for many more decades than we have. See the societal chaos out there. Societies are breaking up. There's atomization. There's massive social issues, mental, anguish and mental illness. So many issues, right? Relationships are breaking down. Birth rates are collapsing, right? People simply don't want to have families, right? This experiment has been tried. It's clearly not working. Why do we want to walk down that road, right? So, should the state be pluralistic and not take sides on religion? Yes. And I would argue we need to build such a state. We don't have such a state right now. The state actually differentiates on different religion, on the basis of religion. That's not good. The state should not differentiate. But for the society to throw away religion is a very bad idea. We are seeing the results of it in Europe. I lived in the UK for 4.5 years. It's not a good idea. It doesn't work. It simply doesn't work.
You're looking at religion as a cohesive force, something that the Supreme Court has also said is a way of life, it gives more meaning to your life. But how does it help? And let's look at how it happens in practice. There are many Kathavachaks you would have seen in the recent past. We've had people like Aniruddhacharya, some others, who have said, and they have quoted religion and Hindu dharma as a reason to say, oh, men and women, they should not fraternize. Oh, look at women, they are, being promiscuous before marriage. You are like cattle, you give yourself away. And largely then the common person ends up having a very negative view of religion, especially Hinduism. How do you balance the two?
Okay, on this, first of all, I believe in freedom of expression. So everyone has a right to say what they believe in. The lucky thing for particularly the dharmic religions, okay, Hinduism is one of them. We can be both traditional and liberal at the same time. You don't have to pick one, right? In the West, perhaps the problem was they had to either pick religion or liberalism. You couldn't have both. You could either have respect for women's rights or you could have religion. You couldn't have both. You could either have let the LGBTs live and have equal rights, or you could have religion. You couldn't have both. It's not so in Hinduism. We can actually have both. Now, are there conservative scriptures within Hinduism? Yes, because Hinduism has always believed in freedom of expression. Hinduism never had an approach that if you don't believe in this, you should be beheaded, you should be killed. We didn't have a concept of blasphemy. You can't translate the English word blasphemy into Vedic Sanskrit. The concept didn't exist, so they didn't have a word for it, right? So we've always had freedom of expression, which means there are conservative scriptures. That is a fact. And if I'm a believer in freedom of expression, I must respect the right for that to exist, right? But for those of us who want to be liberal, as I am, there are more than enough liberal scriptures, all the way from Lord Krishna to Lord Shiva to Lord Ram, which we can quote, right? Which we can use to have both liberalism and traditions and religion at the same time. We don't have to pick one or the other. That's the beauty of Hinduism.
So you can choose what kind of Hindu you want to be, of the kind that Anuruddhacharya...
But isn't that what freedom is? That look, if I want to be liberal, right, it's my choice, but even my liberalism, there are some norms. Like for me, family is very important, right? I'm not liberal to the extent where I think children can say whatever the hell they want to their parents or can send their parents to old age homes. No, sorry, I don't buy that, right? So which means I'm a liberal, but I'm a family oriented liberal. But if I want to preserve that which is beautiful about Hinduism, I must respect the rights of the conservative Hindus to have their say. But the beauty of the conservative Hindus is they will argue with you. They will raise their point of view. They will not land up at your house with an AK-47, right? And tell you if you don't follow their version, they'll either kill you or you'll burn in hell for eternity. They don't say that. That is something beautiful. And they have a right to their conservative interpretation. And if we don't respect that, we lose that which makes Hinduism special.
And perhaps India is large enough to let the two of them coexist as well.
We are. Look, if some people want to be conservative, it is their choice. As long as they don't force it on us. And as long as we don't force our way on them.
We are at a very strange time at this period that we are going through. There is actually, many would argue, a very existential crisis in front of India. You've got challenges inside your country and you've got a massive challenge that we are facing about whether we have to rethink all that we are in terms of the friendships that we have. Should we become closer to China? You've got America on the other hand, which, is almost aggressive in the way that they're dealing with us. Where do you think India goes from here? Do you see like a major shift happening in the way that India has aligned itself or the way that India should conduct itself in the near future?
Padmaja, one of the things my father, he was a brilliant man, my late father, he told me this, that how you see time impacts how you see events, right? If you're looking at time only in terms of 6 months or 1 year, you'll see things in a certain way. But if you're willing to think long term, over a 20-year period, 40-year period, you see things differently, right? If you see over a larger period, what's happening in the world right now is that the global order that was built after the end of the Second World War, after 1945, which was the American-led global order, is actually collapsing, right? And this has happened before. There was a British-led global order which collapsed with what we call World War I, World War II, right? Which you can see as just one massive war with a period of peace in the middle, right? it is collapsing in such a phase now, right? This is a time of intense threat, no doubt. It is also a time of intense opportunity. The US couldn't have risen if the British Empire hadn't collapsed, right? So the First World War, Second World War was also a time of threat for the US. It was a time of opportunity too. That's the way Indians can see it too. It was very difficult for us to get our say to be on the table in an order that the West had built. Okay, you could either be a servant, a slave, frankly, like how Pakistan is to the Western order, or you could be a rebel outsider, as perhaps Russia is, right? Or we used to just stay away. Right?
You think we're at the table now?
No, we are getting there. Okay, and that opportunity is opened up because the Western-led order is collapsing, right? Is not collapsing, it's going down, right? So of course there's a time of threat, but there's a flip side to that too. There's a time of opportunity, right? And are we going to grab our chance? Because if we miss our chance in this decade and a half, we will suffer for the next order as well, right? We missed our chance in 1945. We couldn't do anything. We were not independent at that time, right? Now we do have a chance. We should at least, make our attempt. If we mess this up, then there's that Urdu sher, right? Like, lamho ne khata ki sadiyon ne saza pai. It'll end up being that sort of a situation for us, which is also why I feel at this point of time, Indians being united is particularly critical, right? Which is why it's not just about liberal Hindus, conservative Hindus. It's even these Hindu-Muslim fights, caste fights, religious fights. These are all unnecessary and silly at this point of time. Because if there's a foreign country which is ruling, they won't give a damn what religion or caste you are. They will oppress you, right? Like the British did.
The internal fractures are only going to make things worse for us.
Like the British did. They didn't care who you were. You were an Indian, they would oppress you.
Well, let's hope that the commonalities that you're talking about in your books is going to help heal some of those fractures, the divisions which are exacerbated thanks to politics. But in conclusion, I want you to tell our viewers, if there's one thing you think that India needs to know about the Cholas, which so far in the way that we've been taught history has been kept hidden or has been deliberately obfuscated, what would that be?
First of all, the extent of their empire, right? The fact that Emperor Rajen Chola had not just conquered South India and East India, but much of Southeast Asia as well. We aren't taught this, right? Sri Lanka, Andaman, Nicobar as well. The fact that he had the greatest navy of his era. The fact that they were fantastic record keepers. We are told that, हम तो oral culture थे जी, अंग्रेजों ने आके किसी तरह बचा लिया, हमारे पूर्वज तो कुछ लिखते नहीं थे.
हम तो श्रुति से काम करते थे.
No, we used to write a hell of a lot. Among them were the great Cholas, right? We need to learn so much of the temples the great temples and the gopurams that they built. There's a gopuram at Chidambaram where there is a text in Tamil, also in Sanskrit. Okay, the same message. You find these, if you're just willing to look, you find these commonalities across India. And the Cholas are great representatives of it. At the same time, we must respect regional cultures as well. So I also say, if you're going to Tamil Nadu, learn a bit of Tamil. If you're going to Karnataka, learn a bit of Kannada. If you're going to Maharashtra, learn a bit of Marathi. I'm telling you, the local will appreciate that you're at least making an attempt.
And if you come to Uttar Pradesh, learn
a bit of Hindi. And UPites will appreciate it, right? Even if it's tutti-futti Hindi, yaar, thoda sa bol do. And this is respecting the variety of our cultures as well. But don't forget the string that binds all these beautiful flowers together into Mother India.
All right, so you have a hint of what are these threads, what are these strings that bind all of India together. A hint of that Amish Tripathi has already given you. For the rest, go read his book, The Chola Tigers, Avengers of Somnath. Thank you very much, Amish Tripathi, for speaking to us here on NDTV 24/7. Pleasure as always, and best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.